Guppies. They are a standard in the aquarium industry and one of the most sold fishes of all time, to the point they are usually horribly needed. But how do you do their breeding? Well, firstly, you'll need a tank. Technically, you can do with a glass tank, but if you want to go cheap, you can also just use a plastic bin like this. It's really no issue. Just clean it beforehand. Guppies are incredibly easy to breed, as you'll soon see, and I think you can get by with putting them in any tank really, as long as there's no larger fish there. After cleaning your tank, you'll need to dechlorinate it if you're adding new water. This is an anti-fungal solution that I like to add beforehand into my tanks, just for extra safety precaution. Now I already have the guppies in this temporary tank, and I'll just take some of the plants out of there. These kind of floating plants are really good for guppies and for fish in general, especially for the babies to hide in. I'll also take this large lava rock. Rocks, large plants, they're all good for not only regular aquariums but also for breeding purposes, because it gives space for the babies to hide. I also quickly set up the pump here. This is just a regular air pump, the 2 nozzle kind. I like to go with sponge filters most of the time. Firstly, because they are just easier to use and easier to maintain. There's really no problem of them short circuiting or going wrong. And secondly, because I don't want the babies to accidentally get sucked into the filter, which is a problem if you are going with a submersible filter or a hang on the back. As I soon realized, this filter was a bit big for this tub, so I later had to keep it in a slanting position. So preferably buy a smaller filter. You can see the way I put it there. I also put a money plant there, a pothos. They are really good for tanks. And here I'm putting some media from an established tank, just essentially getting all the beneficial bacteria from that tank into this new one. Then comes the guppies themselves. The males and females are incredibly easy to sex. First of all, the males will just have bigger tail fins and generally be more colorful, and they'll also have a sharper, pointier pelvic fin on the bottom, while the females will have a rounder fin. There are more than 100 different breeds and varieties of guppies. I am just putting some random ones in that I found. Technically they can all breed with each other, but if you're going into breeding specific breeds of guppies, then do your research beforehand for those. And 1 week later, we have the babies. You can see that right there. Guppies are what's called live bearers. They do not lay eggs, they give birth to live young, as you can see right there. After that, I usually like to take the parents out, because in the fish world, the parents don't really care about their young. If they see one, they'll just eat it. For them, they're just a light snack. Now, if you have a large enough tank that is heavily planted, you don't really need to do this. Most of the time, the babies will survive just fine. But since this is a smaller tub, I'm doing it anyway. This is also why most breeder tanks are usually quite empty. It's just easier to maintain that way. If you are keeping guppies or any live bearers like mollies, I would recommend to have one male for every 2 to 3 females, because during the breeding time the males have to chase around the females, and if there are more males than females, that could cause stress in the females and even cause them to die. So take care of that part. This is my other larger tank that I talked about. I don't really do water changes in my tank nowadays. I just fill up the water when most of the water gets evaporated away. If you have a heavily planted tank, that's already been cycled, and there's not really too many fishes in there. You honestly don't need to make frequent water changes, which is something I don't really do. Although since it is quite hot in here and very high temperature, the water does get evaporated really quickly. So I just have to fill it up every now and then. Now, a few days later, I'll come to the feeding. You don't really want to feed them for the first few days, they'll survive just fine. But after that, you need to find them something that's really small. The best option for any kind of baby fish would be brine shrimp, baby brine shrimp. You can get them in little eggs packets that you need to then hatch with aquarium salt. But I currently do not have those. So, what I took is just took some flakes, crushed them really finely into basically dust, and that's what I'm feeding them. This is a bit of algae flavors, a bit of regular flake food, a bit of tetrabits, and some bloodworms that I've just crushed into a powder. You can see that just tiny bit right there. They look like weird tadpoles from above. Just the smallest morsel will do because they're already this small. You can see how small these granules are, and they still take massive bites out of those. You can also just feed them to larger fish if you want. I'll recommend crushing your food beforehand before giving it to any fish, just because for smaller fish there is a chance they may accidentally choke on the larger pieces. That bit that I gave them there would probably last them for a week or so, comfortably. Now, as I said, the best option is giving them brine fish daily for the best growth, but if you don't have this, this will also do. Just gotta make work with whatever you find, right? Okay, this is a few weeks later, and let's see. The tank has gotten a bit dirtier, and the babies have gotten slightly bigger. Not really, though. And the adults are also doing just fine. I like it, and you can see a small baby right there. Like, this is what I said when I mean you don't really have to take the adults out. I just like to do it anyway for the maximum survivability of the babies. And you can also find over a dozen right here in this stuff. They're just really hard to see, and I don't have the best camera at my side anyway. I'll just feed the adults right here, and then these ones as well. They usually eat a lot more, which is quite obvious. The best kind of food you can give to your fish is usually a mix of dry pellets like this with some frozen dried bloodworms or shrimp, and plus some actual frozen bloodworms, and if possible live shrimp and worms as well. That is the best kind of diet you can give to your fish. This is a trumpet snail, I think. I'm not exactly sure. And these are some of the babies that I found. You can see just how small and transparent they are. They won't start showing colors until they are like a month old. Usually, in my experience, that is. Absolutely tiny they are. The floating plants not only give them a place to hide but also give them something to eat, because other than small microfauna get stuck there. And if you're wondering why that adult fish is there, that is an adult female which is actually pregnant. You can sort of see that by the bulging stomach, so I can put it here. The babies are big enough that it won't just gulp them down, so I'm feeling comfortable here. You can see how much of her belly is bulging out right there. That means she is pregnant. And just like that, you can very much get an army of guppies at your side. They'll grow into adult in like 2 to 3 months if you continue feeding them right. And after that, you can do whatever you want with them. You can sell them, keep them in your tanks, whatever. Just make sure the siblings don't breed with each other. That could create problems. And that's it for today. Bye bye.